Welcome in, everybody, to a very special edition of the Fully Inflated Football Podcast. I am your host, Marcus Whitman, here on a very special live stream edition of this podcast, where we are doing a charity fundraiser here during a 24-hour stream. I might be crazy. We'll find out in the later hours. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today as a whole, and thank you everyone that is joining me live. I do want to say one last time that we're going to answer both Patreon mailbag questions and Super Chat mailbag questions during this podcast. So if you're catching the front end of this, I am going to get to your Super Chat questions, but if you submit those during the show, I might miss them. This chat's going to have a long feed, and I might not be able to go back and find your question as we get to the end of this show. So if you have a Super Chat question, by the way, all Super Chats are going to go towards the Special Olympics here today. So if you have a question and you want to submit it through Super Chat instead of Patreon, you can do that at the end of the show. But we are going to have a full show ahead. We have actually a lot of news that has broken lately. And the other thing I should add there is I'm probably not going to be interacting with the chat during this podcast. So I appreciate you guys for being here. We'll be interacting literally all day and morning. So we're going to get the podcast out of the way now, and then we'll have a much more interactive chat as we go. But yeah, we had a lot of news that has broken lately that, due to the nature of my deep dive series, I haven't really been having a lot of time to do podcasts and reactionary stuff. So a lot of signings, a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff going on kind of off the field too with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the Michael Thomas situation down there in New Orleans as well. And I want to start all of this off with talking about Aaron Rodgers. And man, that was something. That press conference was, it seemed like everybody was tuning in. I can't remember a press conference that had as many eyeballs on it. And it made sense after all of the drama throughout the summer. And it was really good to see Rodgers get a lot of praise finally from the media. Guys like Chris Collinsworth had a really cool tweet praising him for his leadership, which Rodgers virtually never gets praise for. Colin Cowherd, who's hasn't exactly been the biggest Rodgers fanboy throughout his career, really applauding everything that Rodgers did, and some of the bravery it took from him to speak up on some of the issues that are going on in Green Bay right now relative to the rest of the league, and some of the players around the league too. Kyler Murray was kind of funny to see Kyler tweet about it, because we got the Rodgers J here behind me and the Kyler Murray J there as well. So those are my quarterbacks, I guess. But yeah, good to see Rodgers finally get some praise after all summer. The narrative really being, whether it was in the media, podcasts, or just the private conversations I've had with people, people just shredding Rodgers, calling him, selfish and vindictive and, a crybaby and all this stuff. And that really was not the player that took the podium for 30 minutes on Tuesday, I think it was. I thought Rodgers was extremely professional, respectful, he was collected, and most importantly, he made some really good points and really brought the receipts. Like, he came with specific details, with evidence, and the stuff that he's mad about, which you just gotta respect. A guy that has put his thoughts together, that, we always say, like, if you're gonna have an opinion about anything, at least be convicted in that opinion and have good reasons for that opinion. It's no different in Rodgers' case with how he feels about how the organization has treated him. Whether you agree with it or not, you can't deny that in his mind they have wronged him. And he points out that his requests are not unreasonable here. He's not asking for anything that any other quarterback of his stature hasn't gotten over the last 30 years. So I just want to lead off by saying, like, Rodgers as a leader really came through, in my opinion. It was good to see him finally get some respect. It's not going to carry all the way through, and that takes me to just kind of this narrative that is. I won't talk about this forever, but I want to call out Adam Schefter again. Like, Adam Schefter deserves so much freaking criticism. This has honestly been one of my better takes throughout the summer, was how Adam Schefter really screwed over Aaron Rodgers here and borderline, like, I don't know, defamed him or defaced him for releasing this story on draft day. And I said it like a week after that happened back in May. I had a podcast about it. I was talking about how this is so ridiculous. Like, I had podcasters that I respected attacking Aaron Rodgers, saying how selfish he was. Family members saying, what a jerk, how selfish. He took that day away from all of the prospects. No, that was Adam freaking Schefter who did that. And that narrative kept going throughout the entire summer. And Aaron Rodgers addressed that himself, and he even kind of called out Adam Schefter in a subtle way, which is, for those that have followed Aaron Rodgers' career, he'll drop little notes in there that are very subtle, but you know what he's talking about. And there was a reporter that asked him, were there any areas where you felt misunderstood throughout this whole process? And I'm going to read his whole quote here. The media loves to put out stories when there's not enough content to put out there. There were times I could have said something. I love this city, this organization, and I didn't want to get into a pissing match with the team that's employed me for 16 years and paid me a lot of money. I felt like handling things behind closed doors was the right way to do it. And then he goes on and confirms that there were leaks, but that he and his management can confirm that they did not come from him. He then said that, I don't know what I would have had to gain from leaking stuff on draft day. And he looks up in disgust and rolls his eyes. That was directly pointed at Adam Schefter. And that, again, guys, I think this is one of my better takes. Throughout the summer, I said, screw Adam Schefter. He is just defacing Aaron Rodgers. He knew exactly what he was doing when he released that story, and he was doing it for clicks. Like, how selfish. I have lost so much respect for Adam Schefter this summer. Not just that, but he doubled down on it. He was like, Rodgers is gone. Like, Green Bay has already lost Aaron Rodgers. I could not have lost any more respect for Adam Schefter. He's still very good at his job, but he deserves so much criticism for what has happened for this whole story. And the other thing I said about this was I was telling people, like, what does Rodgers have to gain from coming out and denying, like, fake reports about him calling Brian Gutekunst, Jerry Krause, and all this stuff? Rodgers had nothing to gain from this. I thought he handled this as any man in a business should handle things. You handle things behind closed doors to a man. He didn't want to get into a pissing match. He didn't want to, blast this team that he does love. He does still want to play for this team. He still loves the Packers. Unfortunately, they don't love him because they drafted his replacement. So he's put in a really tough spot. So this has really played out the way I kind of called this out in my podcast in May. And Rodgers obviously not happy with the media that has spent the majority of Rodgers' career really finding reasons to attack his character. And I thought for the people that watched that press conference, that was not a vindictive, selfish crybaby. That was a thoughtful leader of an organization that just wants to help his team win. So it was really good to see him get sort of praise for his character, his off-field stuff that everybody just constantly attacks him for. But for anyone that's followed his career, the stuff that you see in the media just doesn't sync up with the player that you see in press conferences, in other content that he does, whether it's the Pat McAfee show or the Pete Holmes podcast. It's just not who Aaron is. So I wanted to get that out of the way and now talk about more of the football side of this. What kind of happened here and what does this mean for the future of the Packers? So Rodgers made it easy on us. He was very clear about what he's wanted here, just like to a T, like bringing the receipts. Like I said, at the top of all this, he wants to be a resource for the team that he loves, was kind of the term that it felt like he kept reiterating in different ways. He just wants to be allowed to help the team win. He knows his value. He sees what other quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, around the league are able to do as far as recruiting and different things, and just being viewed as more than just a player, basically, is what he wants. And you also have to consider the unique situation in Green Bay that has complicated this entire mess, where Green Bay doesn't have an owner. If it was any other team, Aaron Rodgers would go right to the owner. He would voice his complaints. They would have a one-on-one conversation, And more likely than not, the owner would be like, yeah, I think that's fair. Let me go talk to the GM. Problem solved. But unfortunately, you can't do that in Green Bay. There's a whole board of directors. You got Mark Murphy. You get in a pissing match with him. You've got Brian Gutekunst and the power he has. So, man, it was a big mess. But yeah, basically the things that Rodgers was listing through that he wants, and again, he was very specific about this stuff. He wants to be able to recruit free agents. He had offered years ago, and he has consistently said, I know the players around the league. I've had people come to me and say, yeah, I'll come to Green Bay and play for you. All Rodgers wanted was to have a communication between the front office, Rodgers, and the free agents, and he just wanted to help recruit free agents, which, my God, that's my whole thing with Green Bay for the last decade is why do they view free agency like the plague? And that seems no different with how Rodgers wanted to help out there. He talked about when they hired Matt LaFleur, he was really disappointed that he wasn't even consulted. I mean, what the heck, man? Do you really think the Atlanta Falcons didn't talk to Matt Ryan about Arthur Smith? Just ask the head coach. That's why Deshaun Watson wants a trade from Houston. He was told that they would consult him, and then they didn't. Rodgers kind of similar there. And then he wants to be able to voice his opinions to the front office on kind of the locker room feel. He talks about how he has kind of a unique perspective, having seen the Charles Woodsons and the Julius Peppers and the Jordy Nelsons of the world come and go. He knows what having that veteran presence in the locker room can mean to team chemistry. And he talks about how it's not even so much about, as it gets to the last point, where he wants the organization to treat outgoing veterans with more respect. He talks about the relationships, and that's leadership, man. That is having relationships with your players, which is everything people always criticize Aaron Rodgers for, is that he doesn't care about his teammates. Well, he's literally out here pouring his heart out for all of the teammates he's loved throughout the last 10 years. So there goes that narrative, I guess. But yeah, he wants to have more of an open communication between the outgoing veterans that either get lowballed or the team doesn't even talk to. I mean, do you guys know that the Green Bay Packers didn't even get on the phone with Corey Linsley and his agent? They didn't even get on the phone with Casey Hayward and his agent. They didn't even call to see if they would take a hometown discount. They didn't even call and tell them, sorry, we're a little low on cap space. We really appreciate your services. If your market's a little slower, in the case of a Casey Hayward, for example, let's open a line of communication. Rodgers just wants all the things that literally every front office in the NFL is doing. That's including the Raiders and Texans of the world. He just wants improvement is all he wants. And he knows he's been around the league for 20 years. Yes, he's a player, but he's not dumb. I mean, just listen to him talk about the salary cap in that press conference. The guy clearly has a firm understanding of how the league operations work. And he's seen it around the league, and he's not dumb, and he knows, just as I've said for years, that Green Bay is not doing things the right way. And he is using his platform to fix those things. Now, did they accomplish that? It doesn't really seem so. According to Rodgers, he still doesn't expect to be a part of those conversations. And it seems that they reached kind of this midway point. And honestly, the agreement they reached is ideal for Green Bay. I can't have imagined a better arrangement from Green Bay's perspective, because they eventually want to get to Jordan Love, and they don't want to really open up this can of worms of giving players power, which in the case of a Rodgers, I think they should ask Aaron Rodgers his opinion on things. So for Green Bay, this was perfect. They get their quarterback back. It's going to keep Devante Adams in-house for a year, and they're going to really have the plan in place that they wanted. So for Green Bay, it couldn't really be any more perfect, and the outlook for this season is amazing because they did actually manage to work this out in a situation where they have a relatively happy and prepared Aaron Rodgers coming in. I mean, he's obviously still upset about some things, but he does seem like he wants to be there. He does seem like he does genuinely love this team, and he's excited for the year. So that's obviously good. And what they did was they removed his 2023 contract season. They voided it, so it'll automatically go. He will not be on the team in 2023. He will, though, in 2022 still be under contract. And that's where it could get murky again, but it does really feel like that was always Green Bay's window, was have Jordan Love sit for 2 years. The way that Rodgers' contract is aligned as far as dead salary, they wanted 2 more years of Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to get 2 more years of Aaron Rodgers, whether that's good for them or not. Green Bay is getting what they wanted, and eventually Aaron Rodgers is going to get what he wants as well, essentially playing on like a franchise tag type of situation. That was the other part of this, was Green Bay cannot franchise tag him, which was the same thing Brady deployed to get out of New England, where some of this similar stuff was going on. So, yeah, it's really just overall pretty positive vibes. I think Aaron's happy that he's at least been able to voice his opinion, and if they're able to change the way this organization operates, he might stick around. He might play here till he's 45. I don't think that's impossible. If they win a Super Bowl and Randall Cobb goes off and Brian Gutekunst grows up and starts to ask Aaron Rodgers some more things, there's a chance that this plays out differently, where they're happy together and they just trade Jordan Love and kind of eat that draft pick and move forward for a long time with Aaron Rodgers, who wants to play for a long time. The future is still pretty unclear as far as that, but it does seem like likely Rodgers will get traded next year. So let's go ahead and move on. I think we covered that pretty well, and we'll talk about the Cobb and Dennis Kelly additions for Green Bay as well as we move forward now to talk more about just some news. Let's get into the news, man. Carson Wentz has been injured. Yeah, I know, this is 2021. It's not every year for the last 3 years. Yeah, the dude just can't stay healthy. It's ridiculous. It's frustrating. Very frustrating. I got Carson in a dynasty league and had Andrew Luck, had Joe Burrow, had Gardner Minshew. Can't seem to hold a quarterback in that league. But, oh, man, I was really excited for Carson Wentz. Now, we don't know a ton of information about this yet. He could start week 1. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but, man, it just seems like nothing can go right for Carson Wentz. And it is, even if he does get back healthy, I do think this hurts him because he's going to be at a disadvantage as far as moving teams and getting used to these receivers, really is what it comes down to, because he'll know the offense, but it's unfortunate. There's trade talks circulating in Indianapolis already. God, they just can't seem to hold on to a quarterback. It's rough. They're almost cursed at this point. So it's news. I really don't have enough information to talk too much about it, other than I was and am still kind of excited for Carson Wentz. But obviously, if he just can't stay healthy, just how gut-wrenching is that? Cam Akers as well got injured 10 days ago. He was kind of a breakout potential star running back there for the Rams. They let Malcolm Brown go, which kind of cleared up that running back room a little bit, and it really did seem like it was going to be mostly Cam Akers' backfield there. Really explosive player. He was their best offensive player down the stretch last year. He was a big impact in the playoffs and did seem to be like he was trending towards being one of these running backs that makes a genuine impact. We joke all the time about running backs not mattering. Dalvin Cook, he makes a big difference for that team. Alvin Kamara makes a big difference for that team. All those top running backs. It seemed like Cam Akers may have had an impact similar to that next year. And, he's gone. He's gone for the year. It's an Achilles injury, too, which who knows what that means for his future if he's going to get that same explosiveness back. So that's a gut-wrenching injury for a Rams team that had just wild expectations this year and still does. It is still a running back, and they do have Henderson behind him, who's a good runner. So it's not going to take them off the rails, but it took a chunk out of their expectations, I think, and it was a bummer. They lost an explosive aspect to that running game. the Pittsburgh Steelers signed the Philadelphia Eagles signed cornerback Steven Nelson. We get to call back to the top of our deep dive series. And a great signing. I can't remember if I said in that deep dive or not that they will likely sign a veteran corner, because the Eagles are a very aggressive front office. They like to fill out that roster with veterans, and just looking at their cornerback room several months ago, it was brutal. And now they have Steven Nelson, who's a very quality starter. You look at that Eagles defense now, man, obviously it's all going to come down to if Jalen Hurts is any good. But there's also some Deshaun Watson rumors circulating. But you look at the Eagles' defense and really the team as a whole, the defensive line is still one of the best in the NFL. I think I ranked them 4th or 5th in pass rush. You have, linebackers, it's not great, but it is kind of whatever. Linebackers don't typically make or break a defense. And then the secondary coming together a little bit, like that Eagles defense, I'm not going to say it can be elite, but it can be a good defense, certainly good enough to take them to an NFC East championship. But that's, of course, if the offense has any sort of consistency at all. They're an interesting team. I think they have a wide range of outcomes. They might be sort of sleepers. Not that the Steven Nelson contract totally changes that. I kind of felt the same way about him. It's the NFC East. 7 or 8 wins could win that thing, just as it has in years past. And I could see the Eagles winning 7 or 8 games with some fluky performances from not even fluky, just streaky performances from Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be a quarterback that he's going to have highs, he's going to have lows. I finally got caught on to Alex Rollins. Shout out to Alex Rollins. I've seen a lot of people saying I got to watch his channel. I watched his Jalen Hurts video. Very good. Would recommend. Another good NFL YouTuber. And, Eagles looking up a little bit, especially if they can go get Deshaun Watson. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. That's kind of a sensitive topic. Melvin Ingram signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some of you have already noticed the repercussions of that as the Steelers climbed from 19 to 17 in my power rankings after that move. And that's a defense that was that piece away from getting back to elite just because of the pass rush being as elite as it could be. He's still going to rotate with Alex Highsmith. It doesn't make Alex Highsmith, the second-year player out of Charlotte there, irrelevant. But I do think Melvin Ingram is the third down guy and the go-to pass rusher there. And it's a good role for Melvin Ingram, who's had a hard time staying on the field. So, for the Chargers, he's always had to be that kind of just that full-time number 2. And he's not going to have to do that here. He can come in, fresh legs, stay healthy, and just, get after the quarterback on third downs. And that's a great role for him in Pittsburgh. That right now, that's probably the best pass rush in the NFL, unless the guys in Washington show some significant development next year. But yeah, the Steelers have had a kind of a rough offseason, but I thought that Melvin Ingram signing was really nice move for them. And then you've got the Green Bay Packers making some moves post Aaron Rodgers here. And this is I didn't really talk about this with the whole Rodgers spiel there. But, part of what makes this so ideal for Green Bay is it kind of allows them to be a little more all-in right now. I think that was part of why they got Rodgers to come back this year. It's like, we're not going to make all these organizational changes, but okay, this year, maybe we'll open up some cap space, we'll kick some more money down the road, we'll bring in some more players, we'll go get Randall Cobb, we'll sign a Dennis Kelly, we'll go in for it this year, knowing it's our last year with Aaron Rodgers. And I think that probably helped Aaron come back. Now, just imagine if they did that in freaking January. Julio Jones is a Green Bay Packer right now. So, God, that's a little frustrating. It's a little bit more slim pickings. Hell, if they would have done it 2 days earlier, maybe they could have gone and got D.D. Westbrook, who might be their second best wide receiver. But, they are going to make some more moves here, which I do appreciate. This is the kind of stuff that Green Bay has never done in Aaron Rodgers' career. And it doesn't seem significant, right? Trading for a Randall Cobb, signing a Dennis Kelly. But this, for those that have followed me, it's actually this kind of stuff that has bothered me about Green Bay, because obviously they can hit on big-time talent in the draft. The star talent is not Green Bay's problem. It never has been. It's how many bad players they throw to the Wolves in the playoffs. It's the Kevin Kings of the world. It's been the, for a long time, it was the Blake Martinez of the world. They had a safety. Oh, who was it? They had a starting safety that was a legitimate, just undrafted, just a practice squad talent that started for multiple years there next to HaHa Clinton-Dix. I can't think of his name right now. But that's been my thing with Green Bay, is fill out the roster with low-level free agents. Go trade 6th, 7th round picks for some veterans that can help you. So that's something that maybe Green Bay can learn from this. If they win a Super Bowl this year and Dennis Kelly starts 10 games at tackle and Randall Cobb has a good year, maybe Green Bay opens up the way they do things a little bit. That's probably overly optimistic. It's a team that has not really... Thank you, Kentrell Bryce. That dude was freaking trash, man. Oh, my God. And then he went to Tampa and was terrible there. He was one of the worst safeties I've ever seen. Oh, my God, Kentrell Bryce. Ugh, he legit. And I honestly, you guys know I watch every game. I don't think it's especially at the time, how passionate of a Packers fan that was. He legitimately was the worst safety I've ever seen. God, yeah, it's those players of the world. Replace them with guys like a Dennis Kelly, like a Randall Cobb. So I think those are good little moves for Green Bay. I actually feel pretty good about those. Dennis Kelly is not a bad player. He started virtually the entire season for the Titans offensive line at PFF grade of about 66, which is starting caliber. And I think that's a great addition. You've got Bakhtiari. It buys time to let Bakhtiari get healthy so you're not rolling out. I don't even know who's going to start at left tackle before the Bakhtiari injury. And then also, Billy Turner at right tackle. I think that Dennis Kelly is a better right tackle than Billy Turner. So I actually like that Dennis Kelly addition. They really like Billy Turner for some reason. I don't know. He seems to be constantly getting beat. But I think that's an upgrade for the offensive line with Dennis Kelly there, who knows the system and runs it really well as he did in Tennessee last year. So I like that addition a lot. And it just adds depth, too, because that makes, to me, Billy Turner more of a flex piece and a guy that, can slide into guard if you need him, which that guard spot isn't a huge strength at right guard right now, so you open up a good competition there. That's a good step towards getting that Green Bay O-line back to what it was last year, despite letting Corey Linsley go. So big move there. And then Randall Cobb, I actually like the addition. I was putting together later in this show, you guys will see we're going to be doing the tier makers for wide receivers and corners. That's at 3 Eastern. So I was putting together kind of all of the relevant receivers, and Green Bay, believe it or not, actually was tied for the most receivers on that list. Now, part of it was I wanted to put Allen Lazard on there to point out how bad Allen Lazard is, but this is the best receiving core Aaron Rodgers has had probably since at least 2016. So you got, obviously, Adams, might be the best receiver in football. Now you have 2 legitimate slot receivers, which they haven't had since Cobb left in 2018. Say what you want about Randall Cobb, but he is the second best receiver they've had in Green Bay in the last few years still. So you now have Amari Rodgers and Randall Cobb. Those are huge upgrades for a team that literally didn't have a receiver under 6 feet tall last year. You now have 2 guys that can get open quickly for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you can undersell how big of a difference that could make. That was quite literally when they struggled against the Bucs. That it was because they couldn't get guys open early. They double-teamed Devante Adams, and Allen Lazard couldn't do it. MVS had a good game, but in those moments, he couldn't do it in the short to intermediate game. They don't have a tight end that does it consistently, as good as Robert Tonyan is at catching touchdowns. So they now have 2 guys that can get open quickly. MVS has this weird... He's inspired this weird confidence in me. I thought he was actually really good for the last 6 weeks of the season, but now he can just be what he is that decoy deep threat that Rodgers throws a couple bombs to. And yeah, he might drop a couple of them, but I've always said separation is the best trait for any receiver, and MVS separates at a high level. Now that he's their 4th receiver, that's not as big of a deal. They do have a somewhat talented tight end room. You go down the list in Green Bay, for all of the crap I've talked about Green Bay, you add in Rodgers, you add in Randall Cobb, it starts to look a lot better. So my optimism for Green Bay is growing. It's not this amazing trade. Randall Cobb's not a superstar, but just the style that he brings to the table fits perfectly with what they need. And Rodgers was totally right to say, yeah, go get me Randall Cobb. I need a player like that. Another thing Cobb's really good at is he's always on the same page with Rodgers. When Rodgers starts to improvise, that's been an issue with Equanimeous St. Brown, with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, with Alan Lazard. Those guys just don't have that feel with Rodgers. They don't run to the sideline like Rodgers likes to see on those scramble drills, and Cobb was always so good at doing that. So that's another aspect there. Okay, so that's enough Green Bay Packers talk for the podcast. Let's talk about a Bears trade. Anthony Miller has been sent to the Houston Texans. Interesting. He must have been really speaking up and wanted to get out of there. And if that's the case, you get what you ask for. I would have liked to see what still impressed that you're able to do this in one take. Thank you. I don't. The Bears, they've had a good offseason. They had an amazing draft, but they've done a couple things that I'm like, did you have to do that? You know, the Fuller release, the Massey was fine, but Leno release, now trading Anthony Miller. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to sync up with the timeline. I feel like they could have done some things with the cap to make things work for a team that, like, they have a chance. Like, if you hit on Fields, they are a Super Bowl team, or at least they were with those pieces there. Now they're gone. I would have been a little more firm on this one if Anthony Miller was requesting a trade here. Like, no, dude. Like, you're a second-round pick. You've underperformed. You have a great opportunity here to come in and win a starting slot receiver role in an offense that's catered to your skill set. You have the best quarterback room in front of you. I would have been a little more stubborn if he was requesting a trade, and if he wasn't, like, why? Why release him? You've got some other pieces. I'm excited to maybe see Ridley get some more opportunities, who I think can play. So if that's why, is they want Ridley to get those opportunities, and he was going to win that job, then that's honestly okay with me. If that's best case scenario, because I think Ridley can play. I had a late first, early second round grade on Riley Ridley, but I don't know. The Bears have done some stuff that I don't agree with. For the Texans, I mean, it's just another little move. I've talked about this. You obviously have that black cloud with the Deshaun Watson situation. But in Nick Casario's first year, they've made a lot of little tiny moves that have added talent to that team. I could totally see a world where Anthony Miller works out here. He's got a long ways to go, and he's going to be playing with some pretty bad quarterback play, but I do like Anthony Miller as a player. He's just been wildly inconsistent, but he's been playing with Mitch Trubisky for the majority of that time. Surely getting an upgrade, even going to Tyrod Taylor there. So I like the move for Houston. I've liked a lot of little stuff that Houston's done this offseason. So good trade for Houston. For the Bears, I don't really get it. So let me just have a little coffee here, and then we'll continue down this list of notes. Maybe some water would be good as well.
5 letters here.
Jeez, that's loud.
Just for everybody out there in Packerland and yourself today. RELAX. Relax. You're going to be okay.
All right. The Dallas Cowboys have signed Malik Hooker. Good signing. A lot of hype surrounding Malik Hooker, from myself included. I'm surprised the Seattle Seahawks never went and got him, because him and Jamal Adams would have been a great pairing. Would have been reminiscent of Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, just stylistically. Malik Hooker can play. He's had a weird falling out with the Colts, with the Julian Blackmon pick, and then he gets injured. He's never reached superstar talent, but he had a couple years of being a really good safety, a good free safety, good rangy, genuine center fielding type. And obviously Dallas is running that Seattle 3 defense with, God, I always get Dan Quinn and Gus Bradley confused, but Dan Quinn there. And yeah, if he's healthy, he should win that free safety spot. And if he's truly healthy, that will be a good signing. Now, they also signed Oh, help me out, chat. Devante Keyz. It's nice to have chat here to recall some of these names. But Devante Keyz is a good free safety. So it's going to be a competition there, and it's definitely not a guarantee that Malik Hooker is an upgrade, but it does provide depth and insurance, and it raises the floor because one of those guys will give you a good free safety there. It wasn't enough to boost them in the power rankings or change my stance on their defense, but it was a good move. That safety spot's been so rough for them. And I hope he can stay healthy. He's a fun player, former first-round pick, kind of a one-year wonder at Ohio State. So a good opportunity, a good scheme fit there in Dallas, and I'm excited to see him play there. That doesn't help their cornerback room, however, unless you're sliding Devante Keyz into the slot, which actually could, now that I say that, could be an option for them. So, yeah, you got that. And then I want to talk about Michael Thomas for a little bit. I'm not going to go, I'm not going to die on this hill. I'm not going to go too far into it, but Sean Payton is mad at Michael Thomas for not getting this surgery earlier. And it seems that Michael Thomas, he didn't want to rehab during his time off. And he waited to get surgery. He knew it was going to take a while. And Sean Payton basically said, frankly, we should be getting Michael Thomas back a lot sooner than we are, as he's going to miss, sounds like, at least the first 5 weeks of the season. And, to each their own. Like, you're entitled to live your life and all this stuff. And I don't want to, throw too much shade at Michael Thomas. But frankly, what this comes down to for me is I just find him an incredibly unlikable player. I've always kind of felt that way, and this is just more, I don't know, frosting on the cake. Terrible analogy, but let's just keep the show going. He's just super unlikable to me. He's not a fun player to watch. He catches all these short passes. He had 11 deep targets in the last 2 years. So there's that. I just don't genuinely enjoy watching him play football. Just my opinion. Great player. Totally great player. I'm not going to throw shade at that. It's just, he's not Tyreek Hill as a player. He's not Devante Adams. He's not, frankly, Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs. I don't know. He's fine. He's good to great receiver. And there's that. I don't like the way he interacts with other players on social media. He talks trash, but he's like a dick when he does it. He just I can't even remember what it was, but it was something about Devante Parker, I think. He was just dunking on, calling Devante Parker just trash, I think. Literally. So I don't like the way he interacts with other players, the media. He gets insulted if anyone says he isn't the best receiver in football. And now, you're entitled to your free time, but when you're paid $20 million and you need to get this surgery, get it done. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. I'm not going to die on this hill. I saw that and I was like, really, again with Michael Thomas, where I'm just I don't like that. So I'm just going to move on. But yeah, I think Michael Thomas is one of the more unlikable players in the league. And then Kyle Shanahan was quoted saying there is no quarterback competition right now. And without spoiling too much about the Niners deep dive, because obviously we'll get into that when we get to the Niners, but I agree with Shanahan. I think this is Jimmy Garoppolo's job for now. Trey Lance is a great prospect, and I've said that he's the most likely in this class to go and be a Hall of Famer because of his talent, his character, and the situation he's in. To get to grow up with Kyle Shanahan, it's amazing, and I cannot wait to see it. But I've talked about this with Justin Fields and other quarterbacks in the past. Patience is a virtue in the NFL, and I do think there's something to be said about quarterbacks that get rushed out there too early and develop bad tendencies. And let's just face it. Trey Lance played 1 year at North Dakota State. It was an impressive season, but things were very easy there. Clean pockets, 3-4 score leads by halftime most of the time. There were games where he only had to throw the ball about 10 times. Things aren't going to be that way in the NFL, even on the Niners. And he didn't play. He didn't opt out. They didn't have a season in his second year. So he definitely needs time to adjust and prove that he's ready. I think this is almost identical to the Patrick Mahomes deal with the Chiefs, and I'm not going to say that Trey Lance can't be as good as Patrick Mahomes. There's nothing physically speaking that says he can't, and I think the Niners would be smart. Now, if Jimmy gets hurt, of course you go to Trey Lance. If Jimmy's terrible and you're not winning games, but the Niners have been a very good football team when Jimmy Garoppolo is in there. They just want more, right? They want more creativity on those true passing downs. They want more mobility that they can scheme up in the run game. There's obviously more to be had there with Trey Lance, but there is a downside to playing him early, even though the Niners are so ready to win now. I think they have the future in mind with this pick. So, yeah, I think, we should pump the brakes on Trey Lance. I know a lot of people have said he's a great offensive player of the year bet. I actually disagree. I certainly don't think he plays enough to win offensive player of the year. He might play like an offensive player of the year for the last half of the year if he does get in there, but I do think Jimmy Garoppolo starts the majority of the season, if not the entire season. It could be a deal where I think they can win a bunch of games with Jimmy Garoppolo. Why can't they? They can get back to elite defense and run the ball at a high level. They have the best run after the catch receivers in the league. So I think they win a lot of games with them, just as Alex Smith was able to do for that Chiefs team. And then they prosper for another 15, 20 years. So that's kind of my outlook on the deal. I'm not going to repeat those points. Let's move on. Xavier, what did I say? Offensive player? Yeah, offensive rookie. Thank you, Coaster Hour. A couple last little trade rumor notes, and then we're going to get into the Patreon mailbag. Xavier Howard has demanded a trade. Xavier Howard also in the conversation with Michael Thomas for least likable player. Not so much his personality. I got nothing wrong with Xavier Howard, but I just tend to not like players as much that I do feel are a little overrated. And overrated players tend to pop up when the box score stats look amazing and the on-field play doesn't match that, and that's exactly what happens with Xavier Howard. Not that he isn't a great corner, not that he isn't worth his current contract, not that he doesn't help the Dolphins win a lot of football games, but he just got a brand new contract, and in my opinion was paid appropriately. Now, he just wants more guaranteed money, I guess. But I don't entirely disagree with the Dolphins for kind of standing firm on this. It sets a dangerous precedent when every single player feels they can come to the front office and demand more money. So I just, I do tend, maybe I'm a little more old school, but I do like a Devante Adams who's he's very honest. I want that top money, but he'll play the business, right? He's I cannot have any more respect for Devante Adams. I'm pretty sure I saw this quote from him. I didn't see it come out of his mouth, but I think I saw this in a tweet where he said that I'm going to honor my contract. I agreed to play here. I'm going to honor my contract, but when that contract is up, I am going to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL, whether it's in Green Bay or not. So that's maybe I'm a little old school in that way, but if you're a year removed from a contract, I understand it from Xavier's perspective where he's I'm never going to have a year like that again. I might as well maximize my money. But at the same time, you did put your name on paper. And for Miami, you guys know I tend to be a little more front office oriented. I do think it's pretty smart for Miami to not set that precedent, because then all of a sudden, okay, you give Xavier Howard that money. What happens if Byron Jones... What happens if Byron Jones has a better year than Xavier Howard, and he says, "Hold on, I'm heading into year 3 now. I want a bunch of guaranteed money." You can stir up things in the locker room there pretty quickly. So I don't know. It's a sticky situation. I do think he ends up getting traded. I really do. I don't think the NFL views Xavier Howard like fans do. We'll find out about that. So I don't know if anyone's trading a first-round pick to give Xavier Howard, an $85 million guaranteed contract, but we'll see. I've been surprised by stuff like that before. I didn't think that was going to happen with Orlando Brown. and he got moved. So now the last bit of notes is Chandler Jones. This is another situation that makes a little more sense to me. He's on the last year of his deal. It does make a difference to me that Xavier Howard just signed his deal a year ago. Chandler Jones, he's at the end of his deal. And he's older, like coming in off an injury. Personally, I totally get from his perspective as a business decision to say, before I take the field, I want a new contract. As for the front office view on that, he does not, quote unquote, deserve it. He at his age, coming off the injury, that's a huge risk for a team to take, especially for a guy that did not play at the typical level we were used to for the first 5 games of last season when he was on the field, and then you sprinkle the injury and his age on top of that. To me, it's almost like, sorry, Chandler, like, even if I'm another team that would trade for him, which then means you have to pay him, right? That's the other side of these trades that people don't talk enough about. Shane, thank you for the super chat. I will try to get to that. I guess we'll try not to miss that super chat, but thank you. All super chats are going to the Special Olympics here today, guys. But yeah, when you trade for a player, you also are agreeing to their requests. The reason that they're demanding a trade in the first place, Chandler Jones wants a new deal. You trade for Chandler Jones, you got to pay the man. That's a huge risk. Coming off the injury for a guy that did not look the same last year, I don't know if Chandler Jones gets moved unless he agrees to play with this new team for a year, but that doesn't seem likely to me. So Chandler Jones, to me, I get it from his perspective, but I think that ends pretty quickly. I think the market isn't there, and he comes back to Arizona. Xavier Howard, I would not be surprised to see traded. So that is the regular portion of the podcast. We are now going to transition to the Patreon mailbag. So again, guys, just $1 a month on my Patreon is patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. You can get access to the mailbag. Oh my God, we have 39 messages. Woo, let's get it. I'm going to need some water. These aren't all necessarily mailbag questions. Yeah, sign up on Patreon. You can get access to submit questions for the show. I'm going to answer that super chat right now from Shane so I don't forget it. But hold on to your super chats until we're done with the Patreon mailbag here. Or maybe, you know what, I'm going to improvise here. If you do a super chat, I'll get to it. So we'll just open up the mailbag. I will answer Patreon mailbag questions, and I will answer super chat questions here as we go. So the first question here is from Shane. Let me get that water first. I got to slow down. Marathon, not a sprint today, guys. 24-hour stream.
Not bad for a running back.
Dog, he put the team on his back.
All right. We got sound bites, guys. We got them. Whew. Okay. From Shane. Do I think with the reports from the Steelers camp that the offense is looking much more multiple, that Ben could do enough to make them a top 15-ish offense? So you sprinkle in some more creative play calling. I mean, man, the Vikings just ranked 14th for me, and they have a really good offense. There's a lot of good offenses in the NFL. It's an offensive league. Top 20, certainly. They have the receivers, and you know, if Big Ben is a cross between his old self and what we saw last year, I guess top 15 is possible. But with that defense, if they could just be a top 20 offense, that is a typical playoff team, I would say. So I do think that is the big thing we were looking for, was more creativity with the offense. So it's good to see that reports out of training camp seem to think that, but you know, it is just a training camp report. And how quickly do they go back to their old self? Let me have a little coffee here, and then we'll get into the Patreon here. So I'm just going to do, again, for the patrons out there, because I haven't looked through these yet, I'm only opening the ones that start with mailbag questions. So that is how you submit questions to the show, is through DMs on Patreon. Lead with mailbag question. Okay, from Jack. Woo, this is a big one. Do I think the Bears ruined Mitch Trubisky by playing him in 2017? He was a raw prospect. I think they should have sat him. Um, 1 second, guys. My phone's. Yeah, Trubisky. I don't think he was a Fields or a Lance. I did not think he was a legit first round guy, and I don't know. I don't think they ruined him. I think Trubisky is just not a good quarterback. I didn't think Blake Bortles was a good quarterback. Now, I think like Sam Darnold, you can make a case he's been ruined. You can make a case that Ryan Tannehill was kind of ruined. Ryan Tannehill was kind of ruined in Miami. There's certain quarterbacks that I think, although Ryan Tannehill was maybe a little bit of a reach too, but there's a balance there. Personally, I just too many times saw Trubisky pass up easy, schemed up first reads, and just all of the mistakes. No, I don't think anything could have happened differently. I don't think he had this terrible surrounding core either that you can point to. Like, he had a great defense constantly. He's had offensive line. He's had Allen Robinson. I'm going to go with a no on that one. From Sandro, what did I think of Kyle Duggar last year? What do I think his ceiling is? Duggar is a stud, man. That was one pick that stood out to me from the 2020 draft, just the landing spot. Belichick, he's had Patrick Chung, right? But Kyle Duggar's just a freakier version of Patrick Chung. And I think Duggar can, he was fairly similar to me to Jeremy Chin in a lot of ways as a prospect who obviously balled out last year. And I think he can get up to be that high-end strong safety type of guy. Obviously a different play style, but similar to like the caliber of a Tyrann Mathieu or a Budda Baker, who those guys have played a lot more free safety as of late. But Jamal Adams, Derwin James are kind of different level freaks. I don't know if I'm ready to say he can be that good, but I really like him. I think he can be a top 10 safety and is poised for a big year as well. He's definitely a breakout candidate for that Patriots defense. From Josh, do I think Derek Stingley could be the number one overall player on my board next year? Definitely. From the limited sample size I have, I'd say definitely. You've got the Oregon kid, the pass rusher, and then it would take a quarterback. Well, I don't think any of these quarterbacks are going to have a higher grade than Stingley or what's his name from Oregon. The other guy in the combo there might be the Alabama tackle right now. I can't remember his name. But yeah, the very too early draft board would be, honestly, maybe would have Derek Stingley as the favorite. From Nathan, if I was able to make an all-pro team for this upcoming season, what would it look like? 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back, and a 4-3 defense. Okay, let's rip through it. For this upcoming season, Mahomes is my quarterback. My running back, I'll take... Screw it. Give me Saquon Barkley. I don't care. Don't at me. I'm taking Saquon. This isn't a vacuum. He's not on the Giants anymore. 3 wide receivers. I want a good balance of skill set, so these aren't necessarily the top 3 receivers, but I want Devante Adams as my route runner, Tyreek Hill as my deep threat, and then I will take Michael Thomas as my slot receiver. 1 tight end. Because we have those route runners, I will go with Kittle. But I do think that gap's closing between Kelsey and Kittle. And then we'll skip the O-line because it's not in the question. 4-3 defense, I will go with Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, Donald, obviously, and I guess Chris Jones. I guess it'd be Chris Jones. I was tempted to go with like a Cam Hayward to be, or actually to go with more of like a nose tackle, because Donald in a 4-3 defense, you don't necessarily he's not going to be maximized necessarily as a nose tackle. Chris Jones could play nose tackle, but you might even be better off, honestly, sounds crazy with like a Kenny Clark or a Vita Vea just schematically, but I'll just say Chris Jones. Or maybe DeForest Buckner might be a better fit with that team. So I'll go DeForest Buckner, even though Chris Jones is a better player. And then at linebacker, give me Kendricks and Fred Warner. We don't need to go overkill and pick a third. And then corner, let's pick our scheme first. I guess we'll go with like the 4-3 kind of Zimmer, or not even Zimmer necessarily, but just the quarters split safety defense that's so popular right now. Jair and Jalen Ramsey, that's pretty easy on the outside. Slot corner, Bryce Callahan, please. Thank you. Strong safety, Derwin James. Free safety, Jesse Bates. That's my team. We have a super chat from Mike. So thank you for the donation. All super chats today going towards the Special Olympics. What do you think about a show where old player film... sorry, I lost where I was. A show where old player film was broken down to see what made them great and if they could do the same thing in the modern NFL. That'd be sick. That would be super cool. I don't know if I have the resources to do that, but I would watch that constantly. That'd be so cool to just see, especially like the quarterbacks. Like, I would love to hear people talk about like how would Steve Young with his mobility fit in the modern NFL, or even like a Mike Vick. Like, dude, imagine, obviously the off-field drama sucked, but imagine if like Mike Vick could play in the modern NFL with the way players are schemed up nowadays. Oh, that'd be such a cool show. Someone needs to pitch that to NFL Network. From Oliver, also another super chat here. If there's one player in the league that I could rescue from their NFL team and place them into the right fit, who would it be? Was that motivated by my Saquon Barkley comment? Well, we're getting to see Sam Darnold get rescued, so that can't be my answer. I'm just kind of going through different options in my head. Not necessarily scheme fit, but I feel like Jesse Bates would get a lot more respect if he wasn't on the Bengals. That might be my answer there. I think I might stick with that. Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I think I'll go with Jesse Bates, because I can't think... teams in general do a pretty good job of finding players in the right scheme fit, so there's only so many players that are good answers there. Another guy is Russell Wilson, but we're also going to get to see him now play with the Shanahan offense finally, so that's exciting. Yeah, like Darnold, Russell Wilson, and Jesse Bates. And then we also got another one just now from Little Known Perfection. Why does anyone think it's close between Gronk and any other tight ends? I think it is close. I mean, Kittle's a more explosive player, and he's just as good of a run blocker. I'm not saying Kittle is better than Gronk. He hasn't had the same career, but I think just in their prime, like it's comparable. I would take Gronk. But Kelsey, the reason Kelsey is interesting is he's such a good route runner. He's so good at getting open. So how do you value that versus Gronk? Gronk is the best, most complete tight end ever, though. I do agree, but I think it is, that gap is closing. If you get some more good years from Kelsey and Kittle, I think you're gonna be in trouble with Gronk. He retired a little too soon. Another super chat. Thank you guys. This is awesome. I'm super excited to raise money and give back today. So keep them coming. Talk about the greatness that is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I just had to bump Jamar Chase up on my fantasy draft board. That is. Shameless plug here. It's releasing on my Patreon on Monday. But I'm very high on what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are going to do this year. The chemistry that they have is going to be elite. Getting that alpha in there. I'm almost further removed from the draft now, like more excited that they took Jamar Chase. Although that offensive line's got to come together first. But yeah, it's going to be an explosive duo. There's rumors that Burrow is adding velocity. All the stuff I've talked about this summer with how Dak and Tom Brady were able to improve their arm talent throughout their career, it seems to be in effect in Cincinnati. And God, if he's just slightly better with his arm, you can finally get into those top 5 conversations with Burrow. From Micah, what is the best position to be weak in? On offense, it's running back, and defense, it's linebacker. And it does kind of depend on your scheme a little bit, too. Okay, back to the Patreon. Thank you for the super chats, guys. Say Derrick Henry gets injured. How do I think that impacts the Titans' offense? I think that's that. You know, we can debate who the best running back is. They're all so unique, right? Derrick Henry is the most critical running back to his team. Number one, because their backups just aren't very good. Like, at least, you know, if Kamara goes down, they got Latavius Murray to carry the rock. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, Chuba Hubbard seems to be a pretty good prospect. If Cook gets hurt or Chubb gets hurt, they have backups. Derrick Henry goes down, it's like, all right, let's see what you got, frickin' Darrington Evans. But also, the Titans lean on the run game more than any team in the NFL, even outside of Baltimore. They're ridiculously lenient on the run game and how their passing game is set up to look like their run game. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but did I hear the Titans over 70% of their passes were play action? That's insane. You can't do that without Derrick Henry. So that's a huge hit. I think they go down to being more of like the 18th best offense. You still got Tannehill, Julio, and A.J. Brown. You could still do some good stuff with that and a decent O-line, but it would be a huge hit. From Otter, do I see having undersized deep threats as a trend towards the modern NFL, or are they just gadget players? Asking because I like Moore. I'm assuming you mean Elijah Moore? I've actually talked about this in my Saints deep dive, but it's one of my more unique takes this summer is something to keep an eye on, football fans, is these 5'8", 5'7" receivers. Because for years, those guys have been kick returners. It's been, that guy can't win the ball, win down the field. Well, the game's changed. You can't touch these receivers anymore just to start. Like, yeah, in 1990, there's no way a Deontay Harris could be a relevant receiver. There's no way that Jalen Darden is a 4th-round pick. There's just no way. But now, you can't touch these guys. So how big and strong you are is less important than ever. And on top of that, play callers are smarter. We're so good at scheming guys open now, and quarterbacks are better. So there's so many reasons now why a guy that is fast as heck, who is a good route runner, and defense backs can't keep up with, there's so many more reasons now that a guy like a Deontay Harris, like an Elijah Moore, like a Rondale Moore, all these guys are like 5'7", 5'8", and there's around the league, you can see these guys start to pop up. Indianapolis has a guy, I think. What's his? Let me pull up Our Lads. I'm going to need Our Lads a few times during this stream. There's a guy in New Orleans. Yeah, put Tariq Cohen in the slot, exactly. Indianapolis has a guy. DeMichael Harris did some things. You've got, in Miami, Jakeem Grant has been relevant for them. You're seeing it start to slowly pop out throughout the league, and this draft was big time with those guys. You really had 3 of them, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, and Jalen Darden, who I'm all very optimistic about. So, yeah, I think this is a trend to keep an eye on. It's one of my more unique takes, and I think the modern NFL is allowing these guys to be maybe not alphas, but good number 2 options for an offense. Also, Fierce, thank you for the super chat from, I'm assuming that's Canadian dollars. Sorry, I can't donate to the Canadian Special Olympics. Maybe I can split it up. So, yeah, that's a great question. Love talking about short receivers. All right, whoops, I opened a non-mailbag. That means I got to respond. Okay, next mailbag question is from Patrick Hill. With Tim Settle in a contract year, ooh, God, I love me some Tim Settle questions. Both Matt and Ioannidis as well. Deron Payne's contract is set to expire. Do I think Washington should look at extending a long-term DT number 2? Yeah, I think they pay Deron Payne and let Tim Settle go, unless Tim Settle is available for cheap. But yeah, I think that's a pretty straightforward situation. I think Ioannidis probably the odd man out there. Tim Settle, they'll keep their 2 starters and hope they can bring someone else up. There's a world where Tim Settle is, able to be kept there for cheap, which would be great, and I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I do think Matt Ioannidis, unless they work out some scheme where he becomes a critical part there, I do think Ioannidis is probably going to be hitting the market next year. All right, some super chats from Bobby. With the NFL going to 17 games this season, which position do I think teams will carry more of than they normally would? I don't know if we'll see that play out or not. I don't know if one game is enough to make that difference. The season is just as long. They're just taking one preseason game out. So I don't know if that necessarily shows up, but if it does, it would be any kind of contact position, line play, linebacker, running back. Also, thank you, Jefferson, for the super chat. And a very generous super chat from Tyler. Thank you. What do I think the starting O-line for the Chiefs looks like? We can answer that, even though we'll get into that in the deep dive as well. But I think Orlando Brown obviously is playing at left tackle, not doing anything else. Made that abundantly clear. You got Tooney probably at left guard. I think Humphrey starts at center. And then right guard, I would think with Devin Duvernay-Tardif still on the roster and Long getting injured, Tardif, I would think, plays at right guard. He's a good player. And then your right tackle, probably Remmers again, which Remmers was underrated last year. He has not been a bad tackle throughout his career. Go back to Carolina. Remember, he got a good contract to go to Minnesota, but when he ended up playing guard for the Vikings, he sucked because he's really light. But he has good technique and quick feet. I think he starts. And then you just have like Blythe and Kyle Long are kind of depth there. Their O-line is so ridiculously deep. They went kind of overkill. Trey Smith is also intriguing as a 6th-round pick. I like Trey Smith a lot. Another super chat from Tyler. Who is an under-the-radar head coaching candidate for 2022 that no one is talking about? That no one's talking about. Well, I feel like people are probably talking about Patrick Graham for the Giants. The typical offensive coordinators. Can I say Mike LaFleur? Is that eligible? Are enough people talking about Mike LaFleur? If the Jets look really good, I think Mike LaFleur would be a great candidate. Someone in the chat just said Smith is starting in camp at right tackle. God, that would just be such a good draft call of mine. I had him as a 2nd-round pick, and I said he's a guy that could play tackle. If he's good at right tackle, I'm going to be ringing the bell on that one. All right. I think we're up to date on Super Chats. So let's go back to the Patreon mailbag. From Edward Green. Whose side am I on in the Green Bay situation? I think that's been pretty abundantly clear. Also, do I think Devante Adams will stay with the Packers? My gut says yes, they'll work it out with Devante. it does hurt them that they didn't invest more in receivers, because it is kind of a rough deal where Adams is the one receiver whose contract very clearly said, or his performance very clearly says he should be the top paid receiver in the NFL. But as people have pointed out, DeAndre Hopkins has an outlier of a contract. The Cardinals, I think, were willing to throw more money at him because they got him the way they did. They barely had to give up anything to get him, and half of his contract was already paid for. So that was a unique contract. So it is a little tough. I mean, that's a lot of money given how many good receivers there are out there and his age at 29 years old. I don't know if it's the best decision to give a $140 million to Devante Adams. I think for Green Bay, the fact that they haven't invested in receivers elsewhere, you really don't have much of a choice. So that's why I think he will get that contract. But at least you have Jordan Love is going to be on a rookie contract. So it could balance out. From Anthony, loved your Giants deep dive. Was wondering if I should have as much optimism about the Giants offensive line. Gettleman seems very confident in the O-line and said that people don't have as much confidence in the people already in the building like they do. Yeah, that's dangerous. Do they have top 20 potential? No, I don't think they have top 20 potential personally. I think they have top 25 potential if the tackle situation works itself out, but I don't like the interior group. I don't get what they see in Shane Lemieux. We'll find out, I guess. From JOR, despite the overall success of the Shanahan offense, no team that ran it has won a Super Bowl. People love to bring this up. While it's likely a team running the scheme will win one soon, if it doesn't in the next 4 or 5 years, I think that's very unfair, honestly. I mean, I look at it the other way. Thanks to the Shanahan offense, Jimmy Garoppolo and Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl. That's the way I look at it. Not that, they fell up short. Like, of course, when those are your quarterbacks, it's hard as hell to win a Super Bowl. But the fact that they even got there, I think, speaks volumes. The fact, like, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield looked really good. Like, this system does amazing things for average quarterbacks. That's why you're seeing this scheme replicated. And even beyond that, it does amazing things for MVP quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers gets this scheme, boom, MVP a year later. There's so many amazing it's not, no one's won a Super Bowl with this scheme yet. That's not really the way teams think. Teams look at what this scheme does on film, and they're like, we need a little bit of that. The Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, yeah, we need that for Russ. Aaron Rodgers, we need that for Aaron Rodgers. It's amazing how they're able to scheme receivers open. It's not like, Green Bay doesn't have these amazing receivers, but they do get kind of open, at least deep. So it's the short stuff that I've always ripped on the Packers receivers for, and the drops. But that's a pretty, with all due respect, and I thank you for the question and your patronage, but I do think that is a relatively short-sighted viewpoint on the Shanahan offense. From Robert, saw your Raiders deep dive. Not saying I was the biggest fan of it, since I'm a hardcore Raiders fan, although I do respect your opinions. As for my question, do I see Gus Bradley elevating this defense? No, I don't. I don't think Gus Bradley is a great defensive coordinator. Now, Raiders fans hated the defensive coordinator last year. In my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion, they don't have the players. It doesn't matter who your defensive coordinator is. I don't care if it's Mike Zimmer. I don't care if it's Brandon Staley. If you don't have a pass rush, you don't have linebackers, and you don't have a secondary, and you have the worst defensive roster in the NFL, you're going to suck on defense. And that's John Gruden's fault, and that's my opinion. So no, I don't think Gus Bradley is a good enough defense coordinator to elevate this thing, because I really don't know who is. Maybe Bill Belichick? But no, I'm sorry to constantly dunk on the Raiders and have no faith in that defense. And they've done a couple things to maybe improve it from a personnel standpoint with Casey Hayward and some better safeties and Yannick Ngakoue. So if they're better, I would look at those position groups. But no, I don't think Gus Bradley is going to change anything there. From William Colbert, a big theme in your videos is the value of scheme fit for players. So with that in mind, what relatively impactful player scheme fits do I think is the worst around the league currently? We kind of got a question like that earlier. So I feel like that's just a tough one to recall off the top of my head. I would have to really dive into it. So I wish I had a better answer for you. But we said, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold are great examples of guys in a new situation. I think the Russell Wilson going from the whatever you want to call the offense they've had to now the Shanahan offense is, I think, a great answer for that. And we're going to get to see that. Also, a quick question, if I don't mind me asking, is Madden 22 worth a buy? I will have my Madden 22 review up before the game comes out, so I don't have a good answer for you quite yet. But I will answer that in my Madden 22 review up on the main channel. Are there any players I believe will have a down year after they performed really well last year? I guess I would look at it's obviously it happens every year, natural regression. I think Josh Allen and Justin Herbert are going to be better players, but statistically will look worse. Part of that is it was a unique season for quarterbacks without crowd noise, and I think those two quarterbacks especially kind of benefited from being able to communicate better with their offense. Xavier Howard Kyle says in the chat, yeah, Xavier Howard, boom. Lock it in. Xavier Howard is not repeating 10 interceptions. He has great ball skills, but he's not a good enough player to be in position to get that many interceptions again. What's my opinion from WG? My opinion on Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC. I like it. I know it kind of sucks for Big 12 fans. Although, if I'm a TCU fan, I don't know if I'm not mad about it. Like, your opportunity to win and get a BCS bid just went up. So that's, I guess, okay there. I would be excited to see Oklahoma compete in the in the SEC. Texas has got to figure it out, man. I want to see Texas be good again. Maybe moving to the SEC would spark that. Probably getting this question 10 times from Jake Dottery, but with Carson Wentz going down, if you're the GM, would I rather play out the season as is and try to draft a QB for the future, or trade for a starter to keep them in contention this year? Well, let's just go on to the assumption that Wentz is going to be down for the year, because that's, I don't think, confirmed by any stretch of the imagination yet. I tweeted this yesterday, but it sucks that Gardner Minshew won't be available for the Colts, because that is the ideal fit. I'd like to try and compete for the playoffs and still have a competent quarterback, but I'm not gonna give up a bunch of draft capital for Marcus Mariota personally. I would, because even if they make the playoffs, it doesn't matter if Wentz plays the 75% or whatever. I'm pretty sure if they make the playoffs, regardless of what Wentz does, they still give that first rounder to the Eagles. So someone in the chat says it's not season ending per Rappaport. So, I don't think I would trade a second or a third for Mariota. I would just play it out, see what you have in Eason there. And they drafted another guy this year too. Speaking of Texas, they bring in, what's his name? Tim Tebow, too, from Texas. Help me out, chat. This is driving me crazy. What's his name? I can picture him. Chat's not showing up. I guess they're a little delayed. I'll just look it up. Sam Ellinger. Thank you, Quagmire. God, that was driving me crazy. You do a podcast for 2 hours and you start to start to lose some of the name recall. For Matthew Jackson, we're getting close to the end of our mailbags, so make sure you guys get those super chats in for charity. Why did Robert Foster have such a great rookie season and then never really see the field again? Off field, man, and injuries. He got kicked out of San Francisco with he had illegal firearms, and he seems to be one of those guys that he surrounds himself with the wrong people and isn't much of a locker room guy, and now getting injured for Washington last year. He's just had a falling out. That's really what it is. It's been off field. There's no question about his on the field talent, but he needs to, get his life in line first, and then we can worry about his football career. Also, more of just a fun question, but would you draft a punter number 1 overall if he was guaranteed to always punt the ball and have it land perfectly on the 1-yard line? Yeah, I would. That's incredibly valuable. If he could literally just drop it right on the 1 constantly, yeah, that would be incredible. It's an underrated, punting and field position. I think it's a little overstated at times, but if you can pin them inside the 5, I don't think it's overstated, because that forces offenses to change their game plan. You can't call your normal stuff inside the 5. So I do think landing it inside the 5 specifically holds special value. Who's the most undervalued mainstream player in the league? Undervalued mainstream player in the league. My first thought there was Keenan Allen. I don't know why. I'm just going to say Keenan Allen because that was my first thought. Maybe Joe Burrow. Another one. Oh, he said Robert Foster instead of Reuben Foster. Whoops. This is why I need the chat, guys. I guess we got to do Robert Foster now. That's a great question. I thought Robert Foster was going to work in Green Bay. I think he can separate. I think he's got speed. It's possible that his hands have just been really bad wherever he's gone. That's definitely possible. I don't have a great answer on Robert Foster. If he wasn't going to work out in Green Bay last year, and, it's not like Green Bay has this amazing reputation with receivers lately, but I would say that's probably on him for not standing out. But they didn't give him a lot of time. From Kyler, I don't know if you answered my mailbag, so I'll ask it again. What teams do I think should draft project players, and what teams should draft high floor, low ceiling players? I think I did do that question, Kyler, but draft strategy, it's never cut and dry. It's always a balance of drafting impact and drafting project. I think the best teams pick their spots when necessary, so I don't think that there's certain teams that should do things certain ways. I guess if you look at teams that are in more win-now situations, you might lean a little bit more towards more of a win-now draft, guys that are more impact guys now. But even if you look at the Tampa Bay Bucks, who I think really down the board drafted for this year, I would say that their first-round pick was more of a developmental long-term pick. So I think the best teams always have a balance no matter what. We did get a super chat just now from Mike. How do I feel about Shaquem Griffin signing with the Dolphins? Oh, yeah, he could be a great special teamer there for Miami. I like that fit. Him with Flores, I think that's a fun fit. He's a good special teams player. He just isn't a guy that – the problem with him is he can't really play on the field, for defense. But from Brandon – how likely is it that the Colts try to roll with Jacob Eason if Wentz misses significant time? I would say pretty likely. They might sign a veteran, but I think let's say Wentz misses the whole season, which it's not going to happen, it seems like. But I'll just say what I think likely happens, and I don't have all the information here, but it seems like Wentz is going to miss some time. Maybe he misses the first month of the season. They roll Jacob Eason out there, and then you bring Wentz back. That, to me, seems like what happens. Best case scenario for the Colts is he misses 6 weeks, and this could be a conspiracy theory. We should just do conspiracy Marcus right now. Because if Wentz misses, I think it's 75% of snaps. Or if he misses 26% of snaps, I should say, and they don't make the playoffs, then they keep their first round pick. So, conspiracy Marcus, Colts are making up this injury. They're going to bring back Wentz exactly at the point that he won't meet the snap count. And then if they make the playoffs, great. If they don't, you keep your first round pick. Conspiracy Marcus. So best case scenario is they win 9-10 games. Wentz looks great. You're ready to rock and roll next year, and you have your first round pick. All right, we got a few more questions here. Might be jumping the 8 ball with the Chiefs before the deep dive, but do I think Chris Jones slimming down and playing more snaps at end will ultimately help the pass rush? That is fascinating. I do wonder, the Chiefs are a very thoughtful team. Leonard Williams for the Giants, and we've talked about Patrick Graham being kind of creative and innovative with that scheme up there with New York. I wonder if the Chiefs looked at what the Giants did and said, we could do that with Chris Jones, with what they do with Leonard Williams. And they could use Tyrann Mathieu like they use Logan Ryan as that slot corner, deep free safety early type of hybrid dude there. They don't have great cornerbacks. I wonder if the Chiefs looked at what the Giants said and said, let's move this defense around a little bit. Let's have Chris Jones be an early down edge player, can still do what he does inside on pass rush downs. I could see them doing that. And I don't know if that necessarily helps the pass rush per se. I think Chris Jones' weight helps him with his power. But I could see him being more of an edge player. So, yeah, I don't know if that fully answered your question. Do I think a front floor of Clark, Reed, Wharton? That's the other thing, is they have so many other interior guys that they want to get them on the field. I don't know if it's necessarily better for the pass rush, but it could be better for the team, if that makes any sense. But it is interesting what they're kind of trying to do with Chris Jones right now. And I wouldn't be stunned if he turned into a pretty good edge rusher. He's got he has the traits to do it. If he slimmed down to 285, 6'5", 285, that's like Cam Jordan's size. From Matthew Bell, what are my top 3 and bottom 3 front offices in the NFL right now? Bottom 3, Raiders and Packers easily for me right now. Although Packers over the last week or so, I'm cooling off a little bit, earning some respect. There's a lot of front offices that normally you would throw in the conversation, but they just changed, so it's a little early. Like the Lions, I like what the Lions have been doing. The Texans, I'm not ready to say it. It's a new front office. I think I would just take them off the list. Let's see what they do. We just don't know anything about them. The Bears come to mind. The Bengals come to mind. Both those teams kind of have big hits and then big misses. Maybe Bengals. Bengals have been really head-scratching lately, whether it's the O-line stuff, some of the defensive moves they've made. But I also didn't hate their draft, so I don't know. The Seahawks. The Seahawks are a very suspect front office. They do some stuff I really like, though. But then they do some stuff that I just absolutely hate. I think the Raiders are right now clearly the worst front office. And then some of those other teams, I think, are in the mix there. The Jets are another team that have had a bad front office, but I love what Joe Douglas has done, so I can't say them. We did just get a super chat. I have a video idea for you. Do a review of last year's ranking and talk about which teams and players I missed on. Yeah, I can't remember. Did I do a where I was right, where I was wrong podcast? I know I did that for the draft, but that is something that I definitely should do. As far as top 3 front offices from Matthew Bell, I forgot to answer that. I think I'm prepared to take the Colts outside of the top 3. I still like Chris Ballard, but after their draft this year and their offseason, I don't know. I still have confidence in them, but I think the Browns are just A+ right now. I think that what Barry has done up there, it's been actually really special. It feels like everything they move is just building on each other, and it keeps stacking. So I think the Browns definitely are the first team that comes to my mind. And then, the Chiefs, I would have said that years ago, but I don't know. I didn't love the Chiefs offseason. Another team where it's like I like some of the stuff they did, but it didn't all add up to me. The Niners, I feel very good about the Niners right now. I think I would have them in the top 3. And yeah, the Bucs, they're at the top of the game right now too. So I guess Bucs, Niners, and Browns right now are my top 3. And we got a question from Connor Lee. Cheers, mate. How big is the gap between the Bucs and the rest of the NFC? You point out that I want to wait for their deep dive, which I do, but it feels like there's a pretty big gap. I tend to agree. I don't think it's a huge spoiler that the Bucs will be the highest ranking team in the NFC. So I guess I can say that. But yeah, I'd like to kind of save that for more of the deep dives. I like to build up the hype and anticipation there. But they are, I would just say, the clear-cut best team in the NFC. Also, I'm from Manchester, not London. Thanks, Connor. I gotcha. We just got a super chat question from Micah. What are my thoughts on the franchise tag? Does it justify the holdouts since players know their contract can be 2 years longer? So I'm much more pro franchise tag than 99.999% of the mass media out there. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Everyone's like, oh, but what if you get injured and it ruins their career? No. Modern medicine has gone way past that point. Dak Prescott tears his ankle in half and he gets all of the money and more. Bud Dupree tears his ACL midseason, gets one of the top free agent contracts at 28 years old. Like, the probability of an injury ruining a young player's career, it's so unbelievably minuscule that I don't think that's a relevant point anymore. Where I think the franchise tag is relevant is for someone like Allen Robinson, who to me clearly just pay the guy. Like, he is an unbelievably good receiver. Now maybe it's another thing where like the Bears are being hesitant because the DeAndre Hopkins contract is such an outlier. Maybe Allen Robinson says, I need to be the highest paid receiver, and they're not willing to go as high as the DeAndre Hopkins deal, which honestly, that's maybe fair. I don't know if there's a lot of receivers that are worth $27 million. I don't even know if Devante Adams is for sure. I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins is for sure. The only guy that I think, if he said I want $27 million, the only guy that I would not even blink an eye at would be Tyreek Hill, because his skill set is so unique. But in the situation where a player like an Allen Robinson gets tagged, where it's like you should really just work out a long-term deal with the guy, the majority of the guys that get franchise tagged are your, what's his name in Carolina, where they end up working out a deal anyway, or the safety for the Jets, Marcus May, Anthony Harris last year. The majority of franchise tag guys, they are compensated well more than their value. The majority of guys that get franchise tagged are not top 5 players at their position. And then there's situations where they'll use it on like a Justin Simmons, but it's like, this is just to buy us more time. We're going to give you a long-term deal. So in general, I think the franchise tag does a lot more good for the league that people do not realize than it does bad. Like, it helps teams get longer looks at players before they commit to bad contracts. It helps teams keep players. It helps bad teams keep players. Now, even if they don't necessarily use the tag, that threat of the franchise tag just being there is going to help you renegotiate with a player. If you get rid of the franchise tag, this thing turns into the NBA very quickly, where you get the Jesse Bateses of the world. You get, I don't know, the Jamal Adams of the world for the Jets. You get all these superstar players just saying, you know what, I'm just going to let my contract live out. I'm going to hit free agency, and I'm going to go play with Tom Brady. I'm going to go play with, Aaron Rodgers if Green Bay lets me. The NFL turns into that very quickly without the franchise tag, in my opinion, and it does a lot more good for the NFL than it does bad. So I am very pro franchise tag. Like, I cannot stress that enough. I get frustrated by all these people. Oh my God, it's so bad for the players. It's so unfair. They never get any money. Like, no, shut up. Like, do you want this to turn into the NBA? Where you have the three best players in the NFL just deciding they want to go play in LA? Like, no, that's not what we want as football fans. So can we just shut the hell up collectively about the franchise tag, please? Clearly, it drives me crazy. It's so good for the league. I don't think people realize that. There's a couple instances where it might be a little unfair, but it does not outweigh how good it is for the league. Can I make a video detailing why I was wrong about Big Ben being washed? We'll see. We'll see. From Mike, I like to listen to your deep dives for a team while trading for all the players in a Madden rebuild. Love it. And then from Nathan, my chat just caught up. What do I think the chances are of the Bengals finishing ahead of the Steelers this year? I would say 35-40%. I still think the Steelers' defense is going to be real good, and I don't think the offense is... While it doesn't have a great ceiling, I think it does have an okay floor, so... the Bengals need a lot to go right, but I think it's possible, if they play the season 3 times, I think the Bengals win or outplay the Steelers once, which I think is fair. Thank you so much for the Super Chats, guys. Again, every single Super Chat question you guys put in, and you're going to make me keep going with this until I lose my voice. But every single Super Chat donation is going towards the Special Olympics. We're currently at $175 for the Special Olympics. Also, check out the link in the description below. We have a GoFundMe link for March of Dimes, which is now up to $480. We are already a third of our way towards the goal. So thank you guys. Do go ahead and check out that link. I'm going to drop it in the chat real quick. Any little bit helps, guys, and I greatly appreciate all of the donations today. Feels really good to give back. Would highly recommend. From Vic, what up? Why do most people see a problem with teams possibly keeping their franchise cornerstones as a bad thing? I feel like you should only get rid of it if it's RBs because of their career length. I don't necessarily know what you're referencing there as far as like what exactly you mean there. I feel like most people agree that you should keep your franchise cornerstones, so that's why they're called franchise cornerstones. But I'll keep an eye in the chat if you want to clarify that. Super chat question right there, Vic. And then from Lions, this is our last mailbag question here from Patreon. How big of a jump do I think Stafford will take this year? Do I think he could be an MVP? So yeah, obviously we'll talk about Stafford in the Rams deep dive when we get there, but I do have MVP bets on Matthew Stafford because of the narrative, and I think he's a good enough player with that offense to play really well. So I do think he takes a jump. and I do think he's an MVP candidate. And we'll talk more about Stafford when we get to the Rams deep dive there. Back to Vic's question, the franchise tag. I still don't fully understand your question, Vic. Like, do you mean using? So let's replace. So why do most people see a problem with teams possibly keeping their franchise tag cornerstones as a bad thing? That question still doesn't make sense to me. I want to answer it because you donated $10. Do you mean using the franchise tag to keep your cornerstone players? Not sure I fully understand that one. But let me refresh Patreon here and see if we got any more DMs as we were doing that. We did. From Jonathan Taylor, not the Colts running back. I just wanted to ask how the Vikings draft. Is there? Sorry, little typo there. I just wanted to ask, with how the Vikings draft, is there? I think you meant to say drafted. Is there any way they finally become an elite team in the next 5 years? Ooh, I think if the O-line reaches their maximum potential, you have Justin Jefferson. I personally don't think that Kellen Mond is the guy, but I guess there's a chance he becomes that guy. It's tough. Can they become an elite team with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback? Probably not. But they can become a Super Bowl contender. I think their defense is always going to have a chance to get back there just because of Mike Zimmer, and you have a guy like Danielle Hunter to build around potentially. I do think they can win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, and I thought their draft was awesome. Elite team, when I hear elite team, I think Chiefs. Granted, I see the Bucs as an elite team, and I don't see Tom Brady as an elite quarterback right now. So, maybe they could be the Bucs, but the Bucs are literally loaded at every single position. Are the Vikings gonna do what the Bucs have and build one of the best rosters on both sides of the ball that we've seen this decade? Pretty unlikely. Odds that Josiah DeGoda wins Offensive Player of the Year. No, not happening. I just hope he can play a good role. Defender of the North says Ravens just signed Justin Houston to a 1-year, $4 million contract. God, what a good signing. Man, what a good signing. They needed another guy in that edge spot. That really fills out that defense. Jeez. That's huge for them. Huge, because he can be a true third down specialist. Come in, get after the quarterback. That's an awesome signing. Awesome signing. Wow. Yeah, A+ signing right there. Definitely helps the defense. Mailbag question. Oh, this is fun. I'm moving out of my dad's house for the first time. Any tips for moving into an apartment? Apartment living tips. It's, in my experience, it hasn't been that different going from an apartment to a house. I would say this is something that Anna's been great for me for. Get rid of clutter. If there's something you don't use within a few months, and you don't know for sure that you're going to need it, either keep it at your parents' place in a storage room or just get rid of it, because you don't want a bunch of clutter building up. But I don't know. I don't have a ton of apartment living tips that are different from living in a house. Try to get a parking spot close to the elevator, I guess. But that's usually out of your control. But a fun question for sure. That's actually next up, I think, here. Yeah, we're going to do the house tour here pretty shortly, actually. I just want to make sure we get all questions answered. We actually just got a couple more coming in on Patreon right now. Geometric Heat. Yo, what's up? You never mentioned that this stream was my idea. LOL, JK. Yeah, Geometric Heat helped forge this idea at about 1 a.m. For one of my Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order streams on Twitch. Yep, shout out to Geometric Heat. Getting in there. And then from Adam Bowman, what's the best live game I've ever been to? Packers at Bears, Week 17, 2013? Rodgers hits Randall Cobb to win the division. One of the more epic moments in Aaron Rodgers' career. They say he ain't clutch. Well, that's just one of them. One of his big game-winning moments. I missed a super chat, apparently. Did I? I don't think I did. Oh, from Corey. Top 3 players that take the leap this year in the world where the Browns win the AFC. 3 players that take the leap this year. Well, I don't want to spoil my top 10 breakout players candidate video that's going to come out here in a few weeks. So that makes it difficult because I actually have a list of players, but I don't want to spoil that list. Yeah, I don't know if I can answer your question, unfortunately, unless I can think of guys that aren't on that list. But that's put me in a tough spot because I have a video ready to go. So I think I'm just going to have to, unfortunately, make you wait on that super chat. But thank you for asking the question and donating to the Special Olympics. Who do I think picks up Bortles? I don't know. I think he's a third-string quarterback, so I don't know if anybody does pick up Bortles. With the Houston signing, how does his veteran leadership, along with the Ravens' ability to develop edge, help Oweh the next couple seasons? He's a great mentor for a Jason Oweh, totally. And Houston's a guy that has power and technique. I'm glowing about that addition for the Ravens. That might help their position in the deep dive. I don't know. That's a super smart signing for them. I can't speak highly enough about how good of a move that was. Okay, last call for Super Chat questions, guys. Thank you so much, you guys, for showing up in support. We just got one from Duncan. With the Bucs being the best built team at the moment, which team do I think is currently in the best position to be the next Bucs? The Browns, the Cleveland Browns. But the problem with a team like the Bucs is it's just not sustainable. You know, you got Tom Brady, for one, taking a discount. That alone is hard. You know, Baker's probably not going to take that big discount. It's almost impossible. You have to hit on your draft picks. You have to have players that are willing to come back on discounts. It's such a unique situation there in Tampa Bay. I don't know if we're going to see a team that is the next Bucs, but I do think the Browns have so much talent and a front office that drafts well. So I guess the Browns would be my answer to have a chance. But apparently I missed a super chat earlier asking what time I woke up to set up the 24-hour stream. I woke up at 7 this morning, an hour before the stream. I spent yesterday prepping a lot of this stuff. I didn't do any preparation this morning. I just woke up, showered, and had a bowl of Magic Spoon cereal. Man, I'm pissed they haven't. I'm ticked. Sorry, YouTube. Don't demonetize me. My Vikings deep dive with Arif got partial monetization because I said the S word. But I'm trying to get a promo code for Magic Spoon, which I literally love. Their cereal, and it's like healthy. So I'm trying to get a promo code. I'm in communications with them, but I wanted to get that in time for the stream. It didn't happen. So that is going to do it for the Fully Inflated Football podcast.